You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where it's another day of disappointment for England despite a fight back of sorts led by Jos Buttler, who was heroic in his defence. England subsided. They lost by 275 runs with quite a few overs left in the day. They're 2-0 down in the Ashes. It probably is series over. So we thought we'd bring an Australian on to talk about it and rub it in. I'm Jacko. We're joined here today by Shane. How you doing, Shane?
Yeah, good, Jack. How you going, mate? Yeah, great day for Australian cricket and sports again. So thanks. So I've got no English mates here in the Netherlands, so I needed someone to rub it in a bit too. So thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no problem. We should say at the top, Shane, you played in Adelaide for 10 years, or for South Australia. You're the ex-CEO of Vanuatu Cricket and current international women's team coach at the Netherlands. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah. 10 years at Adelaide Oval, so a lot of things that they were doing with selection-wise, and I think you guys have covered the last few days, was very surprising to say the least. We can talk a bit more about it, but yeah, you got to play a spinner. We got a lot of success with our spinners in Adelaide, and like one guy, Peter McIntyre, he was a leggy, but still a lot of success. Day 1 or 2, he was hardly in the game, but day 3, 4, his nickname was Six Finger Mac, because he said he used to grow an extra finger to spin the ball more on day 3 and 4. So the Six Finger Mac was brilliant day 3 and 4. So yeah, you definitely need a spirit in there.
We'll get into that, I think, in some detail shortly. But we're also joined, as usual, by Ross Legg. How you doing, Ross?
Yeah, marvellous. Thanks, mate. Looking forward to talking about England having no fingers, actually, the way they've performed.
Yeah, no Christmas tree today, which is a shame. And Max Rowe Brown, how are you doing, Max Rowe Brown? How's the COVID?
Hello, Jack. Yeah, all right. On the mend. Just last few vestiges of it in my face, in my sinuses, but getting rid of it. Still testing positive on the lateral flows though, so Christmas is in jeopardy at the moment.
Oh, that's dicey. He's still got 5 days. I think he'll be all right.
Fingers crossed.
I'm basically staying in the next 5. And hoping for the best. Ross, do you want to do the messages for the listeners bit?
Yep. You should follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. If you're watching us on YouTube, then hit like and subscribe. We're on the road to 10,000, so then Max can get a Ball Eater T-shirt created in honour of KL Rahul. So that's exactly what you want. And we might even want to do one for you, Shane. You never know. And we should also say that you can get us on Patreon if you want to contribute to the show. We will be revamping some of the offers on that over the Christmas period. And I don't think there's any more messages, is there?
Yeah, that's everything. Max, what happened today in the cricket?
Well, Jack, England went into the day 82 for 4, attempting the unlikely task of batting out an entire day. To save a test. It's not something that England have done for a very, very long time. I was going back through some of England's previous innings, and it took me a long time to click through various draws until I found one where England had actually had to bat for anything approaching the amount of time they would have had to do today. I think I found New Zealand against New Zealand in Eden Park, where England were 315 for 9 off 143 overs to salvage a draw. Kane Williamson taking 4 for 44 on that game. So it's a long time since England
have when was that?
2013. So yeah, been a while. It's not something that England are able to do very often. So their plan today was probably try and make as much of a fist of it as possible and make it as little a depressing defeat as they could. And they got off to the worst possible start. Ollie Pope very cleverly got out as quickly as he could to Mitchell Starc to avoid the torture of having to face any more of Nathan Lyon. Clever play by him. That brought in Jos Buttler, who obviously we will go into later. An outstanding vigil, helped by Chris Wokes as well, who was there for almost 100 balls. And things were actually, they were looking up for England. It had got to the point where the draw viz, or whatever you would call it for this particular situation, had got as high as 14% in the second session. And that is probably about as good as England could ever have hoped for. It got so good, in fact, that Australia turned to their young up-and-coming leg-spinning all-rounders, Marnus Labuschagne and Steve Smith, to try and change the momentum of the game. And even Travis Head got a bowl at one point. But eventually, Wokes fell, shortly followed by Ollie Robinson, as he couldn't quite keep out Lyon by trying to catch the ball on the floor with his bat, as he seemed to be attempting to do. And in true England style, trying to avoid a depressing defeat, they'd almost avoided a depressing defeat by putting up such a good fight. And then Jos Buttler got out in the most depressing way he possibly could by treading on his off stump. And that was that.
That was that, wasn't it? Shane, I want to come to you first. Obviously supporting Australia, you're in your Aussie football shirt there. We were chatting off air about the glorious 3-1 win at Upton Park.
Glorious 2003, greatest sporting moment in Australian history, I reckon.
Were you nervous at any point today that Buttler might see it through?
Yes and no. I think Australia got so many good bowlers in their lineup. You just sort of had to be patient, which Steve Smith mentioned at the end of the press conference match summary. But without Hazelwood and Cummings, it was always, can the young attack lift in this situation and not get nervous and be patient, which they seem to do. And Lyon was, bowling hand grenades there at one stage. So it was just going to be a matter of time, I think. And the Australian guys said they weren't nervous, but you're always a little bit nervous and a little bit, they're going to bat out the whole time. And now Buttler and Stokes have defended quite well at different times, and it's been their getting deep in their crease, which is how they've sort of gone to absorb the bowling a bit more, not get drawn into going at the ball. It was Butler's downfall, I guess. He got too deep in his crease.
Too deep.
Stumps over. But it's not a bad tactic, I think, because the bouncer seems to be hurting the English batsmen. So they're going deep to sort of sit on the back foot a bit more. Yeah, you can't score from there a lot, but you can definitely defend to save the game. And that was, I think, Butler's downfall in the end, unfortunately. But he looked good, and he showed a bit of bottle for the first time in his in his tour. I think there's a lot of positives for England going forward. They've got to find some, and Melbourne will definitely suit them a bit more than what Adelaide probably did, definitely with the team they selected.
Ross, on the flip side of that question, as an England fan, a die-hard England fan, a chorus leader of the Barmy Army.
My St George's cross tattoo that I've got across me.
Did you think England could pull it off at any point?
No. No.
Yeah,
It was a bit. From yesterday, and I was listening to Max and Cameron yesterday, and they were talking about how Joe Root got out, etc. Kind of in the final over before it all finished with the day's play. Not once did you mention the opportunity for Joe Root to retire hurt. I don't think, and that's what I was kind of wondering about. And Joe Root and the England team have actually shown a lot of naivety. I've kind of thought over the last 12 months for sure, but in that game, there was no one else, I don't think, who would have had that opportunity with 2 overs to go, 3 overs to go. And England love a night watchman.
They do
love a night watchman. And perfect time to actually use it tactically. And we're like, no, we've got an injured captain. The only guy, if he came out to this morning, I'm going, we've got a 5% chance, or 1 or 2% chance maybe. They just didn't go for it.
Mate, Ross, I've got that in my notes. It's 100% that was the play. Because you send your night watchman out, absorb it, and then in the morning, if the night watchman bats for half an hour or 45 minutes, it really frustrates the opposition. And then Root comes in, and then you've got a massive chance to save the game. I thought that was a great opportunity. I couldn't believe it when I was watching it that they didn't do it.
He was running up and down like a cowboy. It was so clearly injured.
I did a feel for him, don't you?
Yeah. That was. Yeah, one of many shocking calls. We can get to them all. Max, we started doing kind of a man of the day thing. I think there are 2 candidates today: Jos Buttler and his vigil, 200 balls, or Jhye Richardson with a first international, not first international, maybe it's first international fifer, first Test match fifer. Who are you going for and why?
I think I've got to side with Jos Buttler on this one, because I think what he achieved or didn't achieve today was very much against the grain of everything that's been going on. I think Jhye Richardson obviously bowled really well and got I think Wokes was the key one, wasn't it? That was a great ball that jagged back through the gate and pretty much ended any very slim hopes England had. But it was, I think that was the key one for me. But I think Australia's bowlers sort of worked well together as a group, and I think Jhye Richardson is the one who came away with the five for it in the end. But it was cleaning up James Anderson at the end, Jos Buttler trading on his stumps. It was kind of it was a five for, but I think it was not like not your game breaking five for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. One of the things that I thought when I was watching today was, so Lyon, you're saying he's bowling hand grenade, Shane. He only picked up 2 wickets in the innings, but he was able to bowl so much from one end and tie England down and provide a threat that Smith could cycle through bowlers at the other end, and they were basically fresh, bowling short spells the whole day. I thought that was pretty good captaincy and pretty good bowling from Lyon to facilitate that. And it was a real team effort, I thought, from Australia.
He's bowling hand grenades, and I think it just puts doubt in the batter's mind and what they're going to do, and then you go to the other end and maybe you relax a bit or try to do something else. But just that build-up pressure at one end all the time just plays on the mind of the batters, I'm sure. But yeah, he's got so many wickets for a reason. He's a very good bowler. And yeah, he's definitely got in the heads of a few of the English guys. So yeah, like Pope, for example, he didn't want to get down and face him, so he nicked one off.
I'd get in Ollie Pope's head. I bowl shit off spin, and it'd be all over the place.
Yeah, I don't mind him. I don't mind Pope. He's probably trying too hard to be too busy and not sure how to bat in Australia at the moment. That's probably his downfall. But he actually looks like someone I want to stick at. He's probably just trying too hard at the moment. Yeah, I haven't seen enough of him, but what I've seen so far, I think he looks like he could be a good player in the future.
Yeah, we all hope so. But
there's a lot of those in England, aren't there?
Yeah, there are a few. I want to talk a little bit about Jos Buttler, because Shane, you were a wicketkeeper as a player. How impressed were you that he came out and fought in the way that he did, bearing in mind the roller coaster of a test he's had behind the sticks? Yeah,
the good thing about being a keeper, like an all-round, if you have a bad performance with the gloves or with the ball, you got the bat to have another opportunity. So you sort of get more fired up to do that. And I've dropped many, so I had to get some runs and stay in the team a few times. I think for him, he just looked like the first couple of days he didn't want to be out there. He had no energy with the catches. He was just standing up way too early and not in his really good crouch position and wanting the ball to come to him. Looked like he was just trying to get through to the end of the day, and he dropped those couple of catches. But he's a great player to have in the team because he can take the game away from you at number 7. I can see why they want to pick him, but at the end of the day, if you're dropping catches, you got to pick your best keeper as well. So that's another selection dilemma for the coach. Was the only selector I keep reading everywhere. So Chris Silver's got a few more dilemmas to think about, which he probably doesn't want.
Well, I think it's a case of, well, the options are Buttler or Bairstow, and it's and neither option is
Well, they are now. Now they've sent everyone else home.
Well, yeah, it's England, isn't it? And that's what they do.
I think Butler's the right man for the job. It's tough because you're keeping and you're batting. You're in the game for 5 days. But as a keeper, you got to be on every ball. You have one little lapse of concentration and you drop a ball, and then you've had a shocking day, and then all the balls seem to come to you then. So it's really a mental game for him, which he showed some of that with the bat. So with the gloves, maybe he doesn't want to be keeping, I'm not sure, but you've got to be wanting the ball to come to you every delivery, or you're going to make those mistakes in that pressure cooker, or what is Test cricket.
We're already 2 games in as well, right? You are allowed to have a bad Test match. And like being a keeper when it's 35 degrees all day or 40 degrees, whatever it is, that is tough going. And then you've got people sitting back here in their bed in a cup of cocoa, sitting going, "This is a disgrace. I could do a better job than Jos Buttler." And it's a bit like, should we not try and just find a scapegoat in every single session of play?
Well, it's difficult when there's a scapegoat in every single session of play, isn't it? To not find one. There's always someone who's fucked up.
He's definitely the best man for the job, I think, moving forward. You've got to stick him because he's a match winner, and he nearly pulled off a draw today as well. So he's got a lot of attributes going for him, I think. So hopefully they'll stick with him from your side of things, because he's definitely going to play that match winning innings or do something special, which he has done with the gloves. He just shelled one easy one off Marcus outside off stump, which was probably the one that really looked the worst, I think.
Ross, you wanted to talk about the team England picked going into this test. What did you want to talk about?
Well, I just kind of thought that I was kind of building on my other point, talking around. We've only 2 test matches in, and Max, again, you made a good point yesterday that England picked the wrong test team in the first test, so it kind of domino affects us to pick the wrong team in every single subsequent test match. And it's just amazing how England do that quite often, and it's just really frustrating. And I found that there was a couple of people on Twitter talking around, well, if Jack Leach would have been there, it would have saved the day. If Jack Leach was playing, we would have lost the ball quickly. And I just kind of wanted to open up to you guys, and Shane, as a person who's played there, like Leach should have been in this side, right? We should have had a spinner who was in there. We didn't need to play Anderson, Broad, Wokes, and Robinson all in the same team, did we? It seemed a bit of a waste to me. Am I right in saying that, Shane?
Yeah, definitely. Like possibly Wood, who's got something different if you were going to go the all-out fast bowlers. But yeah, it was very much 5 bowlers the same. And you got Stokes as the all-rounder, so you didn't really need to go 5 because you already had 4, which should be enough, and Root. So I think Leach just gives you something different. And you don't bowl him a lot day 1 or 2, but what there's a lot of talk about, he doesn't bowl well to left-handers. And I think that comes, maybe that's statistically as well, but in short format, yes, spinning the ball into the bat is no good because you can just hit leg side and hit with the spin. But in a 4-day, 5-day situation, ball spinning into the batter, quite difficult because that brings your bat pads into the game. And as you said, with line bowls are right-handers, it bowls well. You don't have to spin the ball away to be successful. So I think day 1, day 2, if he bowled left arm around the wicket to the left-handers and like pitch the ball on the stumps and straighten and have a bit of dominant leg side field, you could probably get away with bowling tight and still pick up the odd wicket. And then day 3, 4, 5, there'll be footmarks outside off stump for the left-handers, and then you've got to bowl wide of off stump into those footmarks, which would be a real handful for the left-handers.
Yep.
So he's definitely should have been in the game and set the right fields for him. Bowling day, where he bowled day 2 at the Gabba is with 140 on the board, was just the spinner's graveyard. So you can't judge it on that performance.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really short straight at the Gabba, so you can just run down and hit through the line. It was always going to be an easy option. But yeah, first innings, he might not bowl a lot, but second innings, he's going to have to bowl a lot. And that's where your all-rounder Stokes brings him into the game. And that was I think they definitely missed a trick there. And then if he gets a couple of wickets, because he's going to be needed in Melbourne where it spins, he's going into the Melbourne test full of confidence. So, and if he didn't take wickets here, well, then you just get rid of him and then try the off spinner. And then at least you know. But now they go, we've got to pick a spinner. Who's the best option? None of them have bowled. There's no practice game in between, so they're going to go in underdone as it is. So they've really missed a trick on all fronts there.
It's interesting. It's an interesting point you make about sort of the spin into the left-hander for Leach and having that bat pad there, and because I think that the stats suggest that Leach perhaps isn't as good against as left-handers, can be a bit weak against left-handers, but how many situations does Jack Leach get to bowl in for England where England can set a field where they have 2 bat pads and, he's attacking to try and win the game, when you compare it to someone like Nathan Lyon against England, who seems to be perpetually bowling with 5 men around the bat. Leach is almost there trying to stem the flow half the time, and he's got 3 people back on the boundary. And at that point, it becomes a completely different.
Well, they did try this
game
at the Gabba, Max. He came on to bowl, and they had a leg slip and a bat pad either side, and like Shane was saying, 140 on the board. It was like there was no defensive fielders whatsoever. It was like, go and have a free hit, Dave Warner.
Yeah,
see how far you can hit this one.
And that's on day 1 when it's not turning. So
you got to have those in out fields. So you have your long on out, so they can't run down and play that one. Then they've got to defend, and that brings your bat pads into the game. And it's just a mindset. They must think Or maybe they're looking at the stats as well. He doesn't bowl well the lefty, so we don't know how to play. And maybe the guy himself is not going, I can't get wickets here, or I don't like bowling with the left-handers. They've got to change that mindset and say, it's a wicket-taking opportunity. So
we've said this a few
they're
times.
definitely not bowling well.
We've said a few times on this pod that there aren't that many players in this England team that have got better in the last couple of years in Test cricket. They come in and, generally speaking, they don't start very well and get worse, or don't start very well and sort of maintain a below average standard. I think Leach is probably one of them. They just don't seem to, work on people's weaknesses or improve their strengths. It's a carousel of kind of mediocrity. Shane, I've got a question for you, just sort of on this, and kind of tangentially. So you coach an international team. If you've got a player in your side, say you had a player who didn't bowl very well to left-handers, what do you do about that? I mean, presumably the answer isn't just never pick them or ignore that fact and hope for the best.
No, well, you've got to find a way. I'm sure you've got to think, sorry, just keep losing my earbuds. If it was Liam Ridley here, he wouldn't lose his earbuds with his ears. But I think you got to work out try a different strategy. What's worked, what hasn't worked. But definitely left arm around the wicket to left-handers, pitching in line and straight, and you can take the offside field out, and then you don't need a point in as much, and then you can have a ball of a leg side field and take half the field out of the way. But it's definitely got to be addressed. You've got to work out a way. I don't know. You've got to be in those conversations. And he himself needs to want to get better. Definitely in Australia, got a bowl a bit more overspin. So why wasn't he practicing that before this tour? It's definitely an overspin way of bowling, finger spin in Australia. Takes the sweep out a bit more. You can't sweep if you're getting that extra bounce. So, he's got to be working on it. And they've got, usually these international teams have got about 45 coaches and support staff. So I can't believe that they're not working on these things.
I've just worked out what the problem is, Jack.
What's that?
What we need? We need someone like Matthew Hayden in charge, because what's happening? We're off to Australia. What do we need? We need an Australian to coach us, to tell us what to do. And we need someone who's good against Australia to tell us what to do. And we don't have that. That's the problem.
Mate, it's 100%. When Trevor Barlos was there, you got more success in Australia, and you had David Saker, a few other Australian coaches in the mix. I'd be definitely doing that, especially with a batting lineup that hasn't had a lot of experience in Australia. You got to play differently. Like, they're defending balls that are never hitting the stumps, which is downfall on these bouncy wickets. You only defend the balls that hit the stumps or the body. Once it starts getting outside here and you want to defend a point, it's just a matter of time before you get out. And that's what they're all doing, especially at the top of the order. So that's just something you easily should be able to address.
That means the next cycle of who's going to be the next England coach is going to have to be Jason Gillespie. Obviously that's where things have to now shift to, right?
The great man. Well, he's definitely, his point always, this is for like Root said about the bowlers day one, is he always says, if I'm getting hit through the covers, I'm a chance of getting a nick. Mm-hmm. And that's the way he attacked bowling. And he got hit for a few more runs. But if you're putting the ball up there and they're playing that big drive, not quite a half volley, but you're a chance to get a nick. Where day one, geez, they bowled short England. And Root said it in his after-match summary. We bowled too short day one. And the guys just left well.
And that the bit for me is where there's almost like a lack of accountability, and it comes back to there's always a question around Root's captaincy, because Root isn't a great captain. Root is captain because there's no one else in that team who can do the captaincy.
There's no one else who can bank on playing every game.
Yeah. That's the problem, right? But there is a piece around that where he comes out after the game going, "We should have been bowling fuller." How many times has he had to come out after a Test match and say those same words? Too many.
You might have some stubborn guys, though, in that bowling attack, and they've taken millions of wickets. But Anderson's record and Broad's in Australia is pretty poor. So once you pick them both, I think that's a big win for Australia, because they both haven't really done well in Australian conditions, particularly Anderson. I think in England, you look at him, he just got a spring in his step and he's got the jukes in his hand. He looks unplayable. Then Australia, his body language always looks a bit like, don't really want to be out here. At least Broad's always giving you some energy, but Anderson always looks like it's in the middle of winter, sitting in Manchester and it's raining all the time and you're just depressed. You're in Australia, mate. You've got to liven up a bit.
Well, this again goes back to the first test and the team we picked. We picked neither of them, and that meant we had to pick both of them in this test. and that's kind of where it went a bit wrong.
I was trying to think of a good analogy for this. And Max, you're a big fan of board games, aren't you?
I like a board game.
You've played Risk, right?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got a limited amount of resources, and then you've got to go and take kind of territory from other people. England did that, and they just fucked it on the first go, didn't they? They went all guns blazing in terms of just I'm going to put all of my resources in like the wrong place.
Yeah, no, what they've done, they put everything in, ironically, Australasia, and then like put everyone to try and attack the Asia bit, and,
a niche
and lost everything.
Metaphor, very niche metaphor. Fellas, England, they just look so bad. I can't. That's one of my notes. They just look so bad. It's not. It's the basic things that are quite frustrating. I think from the point of view of wanting this to be a competitive series. I think Australia have dropped one catch in this series.
I think it might be two now.
Might be two. Picked up 40 wickets. A lot of them catches. England.
Steve Smith's got glue in his hands. It's unbelievable. He's just such a good slip fielder. He's unbelievable. He dropped one. He dropped one catch he probably should have taken, but
two more great grabs today.
Yeah,
England have dropped 11, I think, by the last count. That's astonishingly bad. They've only taken about 25 Australian wickets. I don't really know what to make of that. At one point, they'd caught 13 out of 22 chances. So it's like 60% of the time the ball's hit in the air and the England player catches it.
We've already got bowlers who can't take wickets in Australia, and then we're trying to take 30 in a Test match.
Well, that's it, isn't it? If you catch like that, you need to take 30 wickets to get 20 wickets. You're just behind the game.
Just by looking at it, just the body language of the players, and I saw some highlights of the England when they played the Lions in their warm up. Their only warm up, they didn't play a lot, but you could see everyone it's like a friendly. Both teams all know each other. All the guys were joking as they're walking out on the field, and that's just no preparation to go into a Test series. I played against South Australia. We played England before our first Test match. We were getting into them. It was like a proper full-on game. Because that was our chance of my mini Ashes. So we were right up for the contest, which made it a more intense pressure cooker environment. And then you go from playing like a friendly with the Lions versus England, they're all joking around, and then all of a sudden you're in that Test match atmosphere with a crowd getting into you. They went from a level 5 or 6 intensity to a 10, and then they just weren't ready for it. I think that was probably the huge downfall. So they wanted to get on the front foot, win the toss and bat, and then attack with Leach when he bowled, for example. And that was the right mindset. They just hadn't had the preparation to be able to do that. So that was probably their downfall. I don't know why they didn't play any states. I don't know. It must be COVID or something. But that's where they missed a big trick, I think.
Yeah, I think COVID is what they said. I think it's just the way they prepare for Test match cricket away from home in general, in any conditions that are kind of adverse. Or not English, and even in England, if they're not the most English of the English conditions, they can look pretty listless. Tim in the chat, thanks Swadim for the sticker. Tim says new plan: refuse to play Test cricket outside of Headingley, and that is kind of what this is kind of what this team set up to do
at the moment, Jack. There's a few issues around that.
But this, the team they've picked would be great at Headingley. They would win that Test match at Headingley. But they're not at, they're at Adelaide. They're 11,000 miles away, and it's kind of the lack of acknowledgement of the context and the situation that they're in, and the kind of willful ignorance to the fact that they are playing in a different environment that is baffling, to be honest. You've prepared to play a home test effectively for this match at Adelaide, and you've lost by 275 runs, and you're patting yourselves on the back because you got to the final session of the game. I mean, people would genuinely say, "Oh, look, we've shown we can stand up to the Australians. England played well." You lost by 275 runs. You lost by an innings if we had to follow on. Like it's a shambles.
Yeah. No, they basically got pants in both games, so they really got to find something. But now, the only thing they can look at now is we're 2-0 down. We've got nothing to lose. Let's just go out and play. So maybe the pressure will be off to a certain degree, and Melbourne pitch will suit them a bit more. Wood's got to play in Melbourne. It's got to bowl stump to stump with a bit of pace, and they've got to play spinner. But yeah, you heard you guys talk about the selection before. It's like Wokes is in there for his batting because the batters aren't quite doing the job. But what batters are going to come in and do the job? It's really a tough situation for them at the moment. But they've got to find something, or it's going to be like in the bad old days in the 90s when we used to beat you 5-0 for fun.
I think the main hope for England is that the Australians have a slightly overindulgent Christmas Day.
Yeah.
The best, too much pudding. But
Yeah.
Shane, you say about the kind of the glory days of the 90s for you. England have lost 11 of their last 12 Test matches in Australia. Like,
4,000 days since the last win, apparently.
Yes, it's not like we're on an upward trajectory, really, is it? Like it's we're 2-0 down. England selection again, like the media and Chris Silverwood and Joe Root got suckered in again by the day-nightness of this Test match. And they were just we're going to pick a couple of players who can exploit a small window in the game. And typically, if we don't bat first, the other team completely control when that period of the game is. Also,
it's a smaller window with the pink ball test than it is with a red ball test. Like you don't even have to go. All you have to do is like Google something. You can find a CricViz article, which I believe England do use CricViz quite a lot, if I'm not mistaken. That tells you like the pink ball moves more than the red ball for about 15 overs. Then it does nothing.
Yeah,
at all.
And this is really frustrating.
The test is played later in the year than it normally is in Adelaide because so the night time has really only come into effect in the last hour. As much as they usually used to play early November from memory. So it's usually dark, probably 45 minutes earlier. So it
was a day twilight match, wasn't it? Really, it wasn't. There weren't that many overs of night. It was pretty.
You'll get a full round of 18 in. If you're playing golf, you're playing a full round of twilight golf. That's what you're doing. And what's so again, I'll come back to that word as frustrating. But England they just picked the wrong team yet again, and it's just. When is there going to be any accountability for it? Shane's doing his best interpretive dance, whatever he's doing here. But there is a bit of where's the accountability in this side? We got rid of Ed Smith as the chief of selectors because people didn't like his sunglasses. Then we've now got into a position where Chris Silverwood is going, no, I am responsible for this team. If Chris Silverwood is responsible for the selection of this, then he shouldn't have a job by the end of this Ashes.
Yeah. Should we look forward to the next test? Unless there's any final.
Is there anything to look forward to?
We might pick Wood in this one.
I'm quite looking forward to watching Christmas to watching Christmas dinner watching cricket on Christmas Day, 11:30 start. Watch the first couple of hours, can't you?
Yeah, I suppose so. Well, it's not going to be a day nighter, is it? It's not. That's going to be the fifth game. So. Yeah, Australia don't get a chance to make it 10 out of 10, whilst England are sitting there with their 1-in-4 record. So let's be positive.
But Ross, day nights were our best opportunity of winning a test.
Yeah.
Sorry, boys, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
My new earpods are there. Bit small for my ears or big, maybe. I don't know. Sorry about that. Shambles.
No trouble.
Worst things have happened on this show, mate. Don't worry.
Be an English selector the way that's going.
We had one show which was interrupted by someone's dog over and over and over again. It was that was probably the low point in terms of broadcasting quality, wasn't it? The dog episode. Anyway, we're talking about the MCG next week. Yep. Max, I'm going to ask you: Do England need to make a change? Do they need who should come in, who should go out? I've heard people say they should raid the Big Bash for Harry Brook and Saqib Mahmood.
Yeah. I think a bowling lineup of Wood, Leach, Saqib Mahmood, and Liam Livingstone would be good. Then in the batting department, if we could get, I assume James Vince is playing in the BBL. He normally does that, doesn't he?
So
Vincey, Crawley, Harry Brook. Stick Harry Brook in. Why not? Oh, that we might as well. This is the thing. Like Root, Buttler, and Stokes can stay, and then we might as well just change the rest of them, and it'll probably end up being the same thing.
So dramatic.
Who's on tour with them? I don't know the extra players.
So the extra batting option is two batters of Bairstow and Crawley,
and Dan Lawrence.
Oh, it's Dan Lawrence there.
Is Dan Lawrence there? Oh, good.
Yeah, you've got Dom Bess as the spin alternative to Jack Leach, and then I guess they could pick some people up from the Big Bash. I don't know if Saqib Mahmood is the answer. I don't think the bowling in general is necessarily.
Why are we looking
England's...
at the bowling? Still talking about bowling.
We
haven't any fucking runs.
We just need to pick Mark Wood and a spinner. That would help. And then I mean, the problem, Ross, that we could change the batting, but again, the options. You've said the options. The options are Johnny Bairstow and Dan Lawrence. I don't want either of that to happen. Or Zach Crawley, and that's not going to make a difference either.
I'm a batsman. And I can clearly see it's the batting's fault. I'd love to play. I'd play. I'd give it a good go. I'll tell you what. This game lasted. It was the last Test match. We're going back to the last Test match. It lasted for nearly the whole of the 5 days. Ollie Pope is in there batting in the safest position at number 6 you could possibly do. He has batted for 32 minutes in total. Are you taking the piss? Then you were saying, we should change the bowling lineup. It's the bowling. It's not. We went from 150 for 2 to 236 all out. And we've sodded it up yet again.
Yeah. I think that's where it was lost, wasn't it?
Well summed up.
Yeah. But that was it. It was that day 3 session, that afternoon session. Because it was a pretty decent wicket, I think. It held together pretty well. There weren't any major cracks. We've talked about how the pink ball didn't do that much.
Bounce was consistent.
Yeah. And if they batted one more session, which they should easily have been able to do from 150 for 2 to, then this could have been a fairly comfortable draw. It's yeah.
I think the batters have got the guys have had a few hits. Maybe they're better for the run, and they can just adjust their game plans. But it's only a couple of simple things. It's really they've got to leave the ball better. In particular at the top of the order against a new ball like Stark, if he's not swinging the ball back in and going across the right handers, they could leave a lot of balls and make him come really full. Then you're going to be able to hurt him on the drive. But they just look like they're not sure of the game plans at the moment for each bowler they're playing against. So they've got to, if you stick with the guys, at least they've had a few hits, and maybe, unless they're mentally gone, you probably got to stick with them because they've hopefully learnt some lessons and they can bring it into the Melbourne Test and go from there. Or otherwise, you need some new blood who will go in fearless and take the Aussies on a bit. Which Bairstow possibly could, but yeah, I agree. He's been there too many times before.
You mentioned Stark there. I know we didn't really talk too much about how brilliant Australia were as they beat us by pretty much innings. Stark, I thought, actually really impressed. Like with Cummings and Hazelwood both out, he was the spearhead of the attack, right? And he'd come in for a bit of criticism this year. And I thought him with the pink ball is unbelievable. He's now taken 50 wickets. It's nearly 20 more than the next person on the list. He is a serious bowler to kind of contend with. It was good for Australia that he's going to come back into that bit of form. Jhye Richardson, as we said, impressed. Nisa had a great debut day, and then didn't have to do anything for the rest of the 4 days, right?
Yeah. Stark, you're right. He really stepped up because they needed a leader in the bowlership group, and that's where I guess the guys in England aren't doing that. Besides Root is stepping up with the bat, their bowlers aren't stepping up and saying, hey, "Give me the ball. I want to win this game for my country," and really show some positive body language. Maybe get in the batter's face a little bit. It's all a bit too nice. From the English. Maybe Broad offers a bit of that, a bit more. But Stark just, first time I've really seen him bowl consistent line of lengths. If you're doing that at 145 plus, it's going to be a handful. So he really got it right, and it helped the 2 younger guys get into their Test match careers and not have so much pressure on them. And Lyon bowls a lot of overs as well, which builds pressure, which helped those 2 guys as well. So definitely Stark and Lyon really stepped up to the plate for the Aussies. And because when those 2 bowlers were out, I did get a bit worried. That was an opportunity for England and maybe an opportunity missed.
Final thing on this match, then we'll do some questions. Steve Smith back as captain. Pretty good job overall, I thought.
Yeah, sensational. I still would put him as captain anyway. I don't care about Sandpaper Gate. That's all right. Everyone tried to cheat a bit when they play cricket. They just got. They were a bit too obvious. I won't say what other players have done or what we used to do, but yeah, definitely you're always trying to fudge the rules a little bit. Is that the best way to say it? But
It does
he's a
make me
great
wonder
leader,
how
though.
Simon Jones got it to reverse swing so much in 2005.
Please, don't start me on that. Murray Mints in England, always the best way to cheat. Atherton got caught with the dirt in his pocket, and Vaughan got caught before. So,
I think it's the problem with Sandpapergate was that it was just a bit too obvious.
It was like
unbelievable.
I hope no one's watching.
Oh, unbelievable! Boys, you've got to be better at than that.
Cameron Bancroft just grabbing his testicles and being like, I'm in trouble here.
Oh, that's my sunglass cover. Yeah. No, they were a bit too obvious, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it was brilliant. I completely agree with you, Jack. They were just in total control, right? Their first innings they batted brilliantly. It was almost like the perfect first innings, right? And then the selection that they got right, and then also he's so good in the slips. It's really annoying because I don't like watching,
especially when you compare it to the England Corden.
Yeah, I hate watching him bat, and I've seen him score in person 350 runs in person, and it was horrible on the receiving end of that.
Beautiful.
But the guy is like different level, and like some of that catch of Robinson, line bowling getting Robinson.
Yeah,
that was a
great catch.
That was a tough. If Stokes would have done that, English media are going, this guy's unbelievable. Like Chris Jordan does it, he's unbelievable. Steve Smith, unbelievable slipper.
Yeah, no, he's in all departments. As his leadership, his catching, and his batting is just obviously one of the best in the world for a long period of time. It still looks like a kid. I was looking at him the other day. He still looks like a baby, but he's tough cricketer. When the English gave it to him in that series in England, and the crowd were booing, and he got hit in the head, that was probably some of the toughest cricket you'll ever see. So
I think
he's a special player.
I think that's the best I've ever seen anyone bat Smith in 2019. Just
away gave it to him as well. The crowd, jeez.
And then Marnus, they managed to just be like, "Oh, don't worry, we've got a baby Steve Smith just ready to drop in."
Right, let's do some of these questions. This leads on quite nicely to where England's problems may be in that they don't have a baby root, do they? Amwell asks, why is Burns in the team? Max, you can answer this. Didn't perform in India, doesn't perform in Australia, doesn't perform in England. Average of 30 for an opener is not acceptable. Discuss.
No, it's not great. But who have we got that averages more than Rory Burns opening the batting in the last 3 years?
Isn't it?
That is why Rory Burns is back. That is the simple answer. We tried Zach Crawley. He was crap. We tried Rory Burns. He every now and then has scored an important 100 and done all right. Actually, in the Ashes at home, he had a decent series. He batted pretty well, and that's why he's in the side. Like, he can actually stick around and put innings together. Sibley obviously was there. We ditched him because he couldn't score any runs on the offside. So he's got to go away and sort that out. And if he can, he'll come back probably. But that's it. Like, you can't just keep replacing shit with shit because you're not going to get any better.
We could do with someone who could leave the ball though. Sibley wouldn't be that bad of an addition.
Sibley would have been good today potentially, but
I think they like him because he can. They think get through the new ball, and he's always going to show a bit of fight. But it also seems in the field that they go to him for their plans a bit. You always see the captain talking to him a lot, and he talks to the bowlers a bit. So maybe he's offering something else on the field, particularly his or analysis of the games or trying to get a wicket. But he seems to have a bit of
captain. So
that. So maybe that's something that he adds as well. But in the day, you got to get runs. And
he also needs to catch in the slips. That would help.
Yeah.
Ross, this one's for you from NJ18. Why does no one want to question Root's captaincy? I get that he's had an extraordinary year with the bat, but if all the tests played previously were a preparation for this, shouldn't there be basically no excuses? I'm paraphrasing that a little bit.
I think. We've questioned it on this show plenty, but where we always get to, whether we start the conversation or finish the conversation, is who else is there, like we did earlier in the show. Tactically, I think he leaves a lot to be desired. And the bits he mentioned in the post-match press conference, kind of when he was talking about bowling too short in the first innings, that's your job as a captain, to be saying bowlers, you need to pitch up. If they're not doing it, you can take them off. Fortunately, you've picked 7 other seamers in the team, so you can go, if someone doesn't do it, you can just bowl another one. If he's got that hand in selection, that is also going wrong. Chris Silverwood is saying that is his choice, but as a captain, as people who have played cricket, the captain typically picks the side. Shane, at an international level, is that true as well? Like the captain has still got a big sway in that selection?
Yeah, it probably depends who the captain is and the experience that they have. I was sure he's got a pretty big say in getting an opinion across who's playing, because obviously, and the coach
ultimately he's got to lead the guys,
should.
hasn't he?
Yeah,
he's got to lead the guys on the pitch. So
yeah, they both definitely need to have a big say in it. It's good to have an independent person as well who's not in the heat of the battle all the time, to maybe have a different perspective on things. But I'm sure all the coaches, Silverwood's probably saying the buck stops with me with the selection, but I'm sure there's a few people definitely putting their two bobs worth in, as we say, and having an input. Root looks a good captain. Stokes is probably the only other one you can go to. He might be a bit too much X factor, but he's definitely one that would be an option, I think.
Yeah, but this is the next part of mine, is just that regarding all the stuff that is not great, he's also leading run scorer by 1,000 runs, so he can clearly deal with the pressure of being captain and hitting runs. He also has two unbelievably experienced world-class bowlers in Anderson and Broad, so they should be coming to the table and contributing. They've played enough Test cricket to know how to take wickets. And then also, you mentioned the coaches. England have got a big coaching setup. Like where's the accountability? Where is the bowling plans? Have a look at the bowling coach. When it comes to spin bowling, we had Jeetan Patel in Sri Lanka. We didn't do great again. It's talking about, have we got the right people in the positions of accountability that we need to, with the right skill set? At the moment, it doesn't seem like we do.
I think Root's still your man. I think Root probably bats better when he's captain as well. So that's something you don't want to take away from him. Some guys like being the leader and want to be out there and be the bat as long as possible and lead from their actions, not so much their words. So that's something they've got to consider as well. You don't want to take that away from him. Then you've got nothing. With a bat.
Let's wrap up this show. Final question. Is it going to be 5-0? Shane, you can start.
Why, it's looking that way, isn't it? It's Australia's got a spring in their step. Their team is good, besides Harris struggling at the top of the order. The rest are all playing really good cricket. Their backup bowlers are bowling well. Lyon gets injured. I'm not sure what their spin option would be. But they're looking good. They're just all playing at the top of their game at the moment, and enjoying the contest, enjoying being out there. But England's body language just looked poor. So they need to turn it around, England, and come out fighting hard. Otherwise, it's definitely going to be a 5-0 defeat. But there's less bounce at Melbourne. There's less bounce in Sydney and Tassie. It's usually pretty green down there. Will help the seamers. So, probably the Gabba test was tough. This one was tough. They're not picking a spinner. So, they've got to get their selection right, their balance right. Otherwise, it's definitely going to be 5-0. But they've got a few things in their advantage coming up with the pitches might help their batters a bit stay in, because there'll be less bounce definitely at Melbourne and Sydney.
Unfortunately, that works both ways. So we had one message in the chat that I wanted to read out to wrap things up. Considering your captain got hit in the dick and your keeper kicked his wicket, it went all right, actually, from Kyriakos. And so I suppose there is that. Silver linings. I hope that Joe Root's testicles are okay in time for the Boxing Day test. And that's sort of the message of hope, isn't it, from England's perspective.
I suppose the good news from Joe Root's perspective, he does already have 2 children. So
does he? Oh, that is good. I thought he might.
I heard he ruled out or banned the song Jingle Bells in the change rooms for Christmas for the rest of until Christmas is finished, because it's going to give him bad memories, I
think. Ross, anything final for our listeners to know?
You should like this video if you've been watching. There's been like 300 people watching this live currently over the thing, so thanks for tuning in, and follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and leave comments and we'll respond to you. Shane, thanks ever so much for joining us, mate.
It was a pleasure, lads, and sorry about the results so far. Hopefully,
that's all right. It's not your
fault. I'd love to
mate.
come on again, and especially if you guys are winning, so you can get stuck into me a bit, but doesn't look likely, though, does it? Come on, you Aussies. You got this.
We might have a good day. We've had one good day.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this, actually. England have had one good day, and at the end of that day, they finished 222 runs behind for 2. It was... That's the highlight so far. Thanks very much for watching and listening.
everyone.